Hi there, Pedro. Thank you for submitting this new set of essays. Let's take a look straight away and see what you wrote here. The topic is online communication, more common than face-to-face meetings, advantages, disadvantages. So let's see what you had to say. Since the advent of the internet, people have been increasingly adopting online means of communication in their work life, especially after COVID-19's outbreak. Conversely, this trend discourages the traditional office meetings. I firmly believe that even though both ways of communication have pros and cons, which I will explain in this essay, it is my view that the benefits of working online outweigh those of one-on-one meetings. Okay, I thought this was really good. You had some really accurate grammar, nice writing, very good overall, so great job. Let's talk about a couple of details that I want us to look at, okay? So this was fine. I didn't like this COVID-19 with the possessive, the apostrophe S. The reason is that COVID-19 is not a living thing. And so for that reason, we don't typically use a possessive case. We don't use the apostrophe plus S. What you could have said instead, and what would have been more appropriate, is especially after the COVID-19 outbreak, that would have been okay. I also have a big question mark regarding this linking word conversely. I'm not completely convinced that it's 100% appropriate here. I think something else would have maybe been more fitting. So you talked about online meetings, that they're increasingly popular, and then that this trend discourages traditional office meetings. So it's not really conversely, like, you're expressing an opposite. You could have said something like, consequently. Actually, that would have fit quite naturally. So, this is a consequence of this. I think that would have fit better than conversely. Then let's see. It is my view that the benefits of working online outweigh those of one-to-one meetings. Okay. Now here you have to be a little careful with this sentence. You say the benefits of working online. And the reason why I say you have to be careful is because this essay is not asking you to talk about online work versus in-person work. Instead, it's talking specifically about the way we communicate together, okay, in the workplace. So not work itself, but the communication that goes on around work. Is it a detail? Yes, it is. But because I see that your writing is at a nice high level, it's at the point where you do want to pay attention to details, which is why I bring this up, okay? So not so much working online, but communicating regarding work online. Okay, that would have been another way to say this. So, very good overall. Let's move on. As online communication has been strongly incorporated into the corporate culture all around the world, organizations and employees have started noticing its upsides. Breaking through geographical limitations is the first major positive effect of electronic interaction, which allows workers to live anywhere in the planet. So, for example, if a wife who works in the financial sector receives a job offer to work for a company in another state, her husband can still work in sales in a local shop. Additionally, this movement to online work without the will also be beneficial to companies, which can lower rental costs by leasing smaller offices. To illustrate the situation, many large corporations such as Google and Facebook have already adapted their employees' work routines to a mixed regime, which alternates home office and work at the office, allocating people in groups according to specific work days. Okay, so this was beautifully written. Really, the language, the grammar, the vocabulary, it's all very, very natural, very precise. I thought you did a great job with your language. What I'm a little concerned about with this paragraph is exactly what I said in your introduction. You're talking about work online, but this your essay is not supposed to be about online work. It's supposed to be online communication. Okay, so there is a difference there. It's important that you're talking about the right thing, that you're talking about communicating with colleagues, communicating with suppliers, with customers, and so forth, all of this online rather than face to face. Okay, but here, you're talking about, people living elsewhere to work. It was really about remote work versus in-person work, okay? Which, again, these two things are related, but it's not what the essay is asking you to talk about, okay? So you need to be a little more faithful to what the prompt is asking you. So let's move on to your next paragraph. Although some people might still prefer the traditional one-to-one, one-on-one, you can say one-on-one, but I usually say one-to-one. One-to-one meetings, these are certainly more inefficient from a time management standpoint. That's a lovely sentence. In our fast-paced world where time is money, okay, here, take a look at this. In our fast-paced world where time is money has dominated the workplace, or in our fast-paced world, time is money culture has dominated the workplace. Okay, so either one. But I think that because of the way you complete the sentence, you need to have where. So let's get rid of the word culture. In our fast-paced world where time is money has dominated the workplace, the time spent in commuting to the office undermines the performance goals determined by organizations. The rise in workload and efficiency requirements has spread the feeling that people could be spending precious time in other work activities instead of being stuck in traffic or being distracted by a talkative work peer. Therefore, a return to our old habits of everyday, I don't know what you mean by this, presential work. Do you mean like in-person work, perhaps, is less likely to occur? Okay, so again, this is about in-person work versus remote work, and it's not specifically about communication in the workplace. Okay, so while everything is absolutely lovely here, an examiner is going to look at this and say, well, really good, but not entirely on topic. This could have gotten a really, really good score all across the board, but because it's not 100% on topic, I do believe that will slightly penalize your score for this. So, in conclusion, it is clear that managers and workers obtain more pros than cons within online working environments. Thus, there is no reason to revert, not this new pattern, revert to the old pattern, because you use the word revert, okay? Since not only business may profit from efficiency, but also employers maintain higher work-life balance, this movement has probably come to stay in work culture. Okay, this is so nicely written. It's so nice to see such natural language. I really, really, really enjoyed it. But again, you need to talk about communication, online communication versus face-to-face meetings. So, I don't know your background, but I don't know, if you're a student or if you work or if you do work, what field you're in or anything like that. But, some they're talking about meetings like staff meetings or meetings to discuss different projects or different issues between departments or different departments all getting together, or maybe meetings with clients or customers. So all of these we were used to doing all of these types of meetings face to face, okay, with either all parties driving to a neutral location or the client perhaps coming to the business, or people from different departments all getting together to have a meeting in one place. So this is what we're talking about. And now instead, online communication takes many forms. It can take the form of email. It can take the form of chat. It can take the form of, Zoom calls or Skype or any of these methods that we all seem to be using, especially in the last year and a half or so. So this is what this essay is really asking you to focus on. And if the advantages of this change, this shift to these new online methods, if this has more advantages, not remote work in a general sense versus in-person work. Okay, I hope that that's really clear. This really just underlines what I always say about spending some time to really absolutely 1000% making sure that you've understood the task and what it is they ask you. Okay. However, like I said, I thought it was so well written that it was wonderful to read. I almost wish the question had asked you something else, so that I could say that this was absolutely on topic and really, really well done. But you did do a nice job with it, so good job. All right, let's take a look at your task one, school subjects in Germany. Let's see what you said. The pie chart depicts popularity of 7 school disciplines in Germany in 2017. Overall, it is clear that the most popular discipline was physical education in the period, whereas the least voted by students was information technology. Okay. After PE, their preference was history, followed then by maths, physics, biology, and geography. Okay. Don't know that you necessarily needed to include all this information for an overview. I suppose it's okay, but you didn't need to get into all of this, really. You could have just talked about the high, which was physical education, the low, which was IT, and then you could have just moved on from there into your detailed paragraphs. All right, let's take a look at them. According to the data, PE led the figures with 22.9% of votes, followed by history with 22.4%. So slightly, well, no, it's not slightly 0.5. It's either slightly less than PE or 0.5 less than PE. You have to select one, either slightly or the percentage. It is also it is also worth noting that the number of students' preference for maths was only 1.4% higher than physics, with 19.5 and 18.1% respectively. Now, here you have to be careful with a little bit of IELTS vocabulary. It's not the number, but it's the figure or the percentage. Either one of those words would have been appropriate since we're talking about percentages. So yeah, figure, percentage, even proportion would have been a nice word here, but not number. We're not, even though we see numbers, we're not actually referring to numbers, rather proportions. Similarly, biology and geography showed an even lower margin of difference by only 0.7% of all students preferring the first, resulting in 7.1 of the votes for biology against 6.4 for geography. Lovely. Lastly, the not less, but least, L-E-A-S-T, least popular subject was IT, which receives only 3.7% of all votes. By contrasting the most and the least popular subjects, we can see that there was a dramatic difference in students' preferences marked by 19.2% more people enjoying PE than IT. Lovely. That's really very good. What I really liked about this is you very appropriately extended the information here. You understood that with only 7 pieces of information, you needed to do some finessing. You need to do some additional kind of you need to make additional connections to make this really a well-developed answer. You did that really rather successfully. I was really pleased with this. There were a few little grammatical things, but certainly nothing serious by any means. So I thought it was a very, very well-written answer. I thought you did really well. Just keep in mind what I said about task 2 and being on topic. Do let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to, respond to the email with any sorts of questions or concerns that you have. But definitely keep it up. You're doing great, and I'm looking forward to your next set of essays.